you probably focus on things that lead to mistakes in life, or at least things that don't go as expected. Even though suffering keeps recurring, we must continue to strive to overcome it to achieve happiness and pursue it as soon as we think of it. But we must examine carefully, because no one can avoid old age, sickness, death, enemies and more. However, this is the method to eliminate the word suffering right on our lips. Instead of doing things that hinder happiness, which are mistakes in life, we call them suffering. They are always recurring feelings like sadness, worry and anger, can become a source of happiness. This is the key to transforming them, but we must know that it is our subjective experience to determine whether it is suffering or not. If we continue to be sad about external sufferings, things that always come as enemies, and thus we will never end suffering and anger. To turn suffering into happiness, first we must give up the attitude of not wanting to make mistakes. Suffering does not always bring about such mistakes, because if suffering changes, we don't need to be sad, but if suffering doesn't change, then sadness won't help, but will only add salt to the wound. Modern psychology believes that suffering is natural and that it is a good thing. If we did not suffer about our mistakes, Buddha would not have been born. He taught, virtue, the true source of happiness, is good, but lacking virtue is a source of suffering, which is truly a bad thing. Virtue originates from wisdom and compassion, unvirtuousness arises from ignorance, lust and anger. Reality shows that the more we suppress suffering, the more suffering we create. But if suffering is truly absent, then we have no pressure from it and no pain. Likewise, we must give up anger because of suffering, because fear only increases the damage to our patience. For example, there is a difference between injecting a child who is afraid of needles and another child who is not. Anxiety and insecurity disturb even trivial matters. Second, to turn suffering into happiness, we must sow the seeds of happiness as soon as suffering strikes, because they give us the opportunity to create virtue to eliminate virtue. We do not look far for suffering, but suffering itself finds us. When facing suffering we must apply the following methods. 1. To stop addiction, an alcoholic must stay away from drugs and alcohol to be at peace, because he realizes that addiction only brings suffering to himself and others. Staying away from temptations from external objects is the source of true happiness. We must exchange the loss of wealth, as inevitable as the death of a loved one, as an opportunity to see the truth and abandon suffering to create great peace in life. 2. Use the experience of suffering as strength to develop compassion for those suffering like yourself. If you want to heal, you must find a doctor who has had the same disease as you, and that doctor will probably have more sympathy for you. Arrogance is one of the greatest human sufferings. If we laugh at ourselves and point out our mistakes to others, we will end arrogance and prevent mental illness from trying to hide our mistakes. Instead of looking down on us, people will be more sympathetic and honest with us. 3. And also the last point, we must have enough patience as an antidote to anger, which is our worst enemy, so we need suffering to practice patience. When people try to harm us, we must also consider them as good friends, because thanks to them, we have the opportunity to overcome all anger. In this turbulent age, we need to protect the peace of mind. If we are always insecure and worried, our physiology will be disturbed and illness will cause us to lose happiness. We can rush into life and find happiness from suffering, and thus our body will become healthier and our soul more peaceful.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel journey to enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.